Hey, thanks for joining me so far on these Journey just best of 2023 list. I don't know if it's really a journey so much as I like to talk about good things too. So these are my top 10 performances by a leading actor from 2023. Yeah, there might be a twist here. So stay tuned. This is one of those it's my party and I'll do what I want to. uh, it's, type of things. So, yeah, this has been an interesting list that evolved over the course of the year, and eventually it evolved to a point, and I just stopped evolving it. So, we're I'm really happy with the names I have on this list. Looking back at years past, last year my runner-ups were Brendan Fraser for The Whale and John Cho for Don't Make Me Go. Don't Let Me Go. Don't Let Me Go from Amazon. It was a movie that I think I was the only one that watched it. But I think it's John Cho's best performance of his career. Um, and then my winner was Colin Farrell for The Banshees of Inisherin. Yeah, I was one of the only people who went for Colin Farrell last year. I really enjoyed Banshees. It was one of my favorite films of the year. So, the year before that, my runner-ups were Will Smith for King Richard and Mahershala Ali for Swan Song, and my winner was Benedict Cumberbatch for The Power of the Dog, which I did not like, but his performance is incredible in that film. And by the way, if you haven't seen Swan Song, Mahershala Ali is fantastic in that. So please watch that. I don't know what else to say about that. I don't know why that film didn't get any traction that year either. And interestingly enough, I did find the previous year, usually I've only been giving you guys the past 2 years, but the previous year before that um, was intriguing as well. I had uh, only I only wrote down one runner up, but my runner up was Chadwick Boseman, and my winner was Riz Ahmed. Chadwick Boseman was my runner-up for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and my winner was Riz Ahmed for The Sound of Metal. So, yeah. So there you go. That's my tastes. Nobody's won an Oscar so far. It's probably not a good thing about for who I'm about to pick, because who I'll say I'll say in number one nominated this year. So not really voting well for the future of them winning. We'll see. Probably a good thing not to win my list at this point. So, coming in at number 10, we've got Gael Garcia Bernal for Cassandro. We forgot this film, I guess. I guess we all collectively just forgot this film existed and just decided not to recognize Gael anywhere because his Oscar campaign just went nowhere. He's playing a real life, openly gay luchador, and I thought he was really good in the film. The film is pretty good, but I thought he was really good in it, and he's an actor who has been chasing sort of Oscar glory for years now, and has not gotten there. It was a really strong year. I just wish Guile had popped up a few more places, gotten his name out there a little bit. So he's my number 10. Coming in at number 9, we've got Jay Baruchel from Blackberry. I can't ignore this. This is easily his best work as an actor, and he's been working for so long. Yeah, Glenn Howerton is the absolute takeaway from this film, and there are a ton of actors who I didn't put on my list who did really good work. But I every time I've seen Blackberry twice, and every time I watch it, I'm like, this is his best work as an actor right now. We're watching it. He may never get close to a top 10 list ever again. I love Blackberry, and I think what Jay brought to it was is worth mentioning on a list like this. So, um, yeah, he's fantastic in that film. So, yes, Glenn Howerton was my pick for Best Supporting Actor. Anyway, moving up the list, number 8 on my list is Jamie Foxx for The Burial. He's on both lists. For a guy who gained no traction in the awards season, he made both of my lists. He made supporting actor for They Cloned Tyrone and leading actor for The Burial. He had a great year. You wouldn't know it from his lack of nominations. But here he plays a boisterous lawyer, charged with doing the right thing. And the film lacks a certain amount of gravitas, which is why I think it just kind of ends a little bit. It doesn't quite have its spotlight moment. I don't know. It's like oh my god moment, but his performance is really good, so he deserves to be here. Number 7 on my list is Barry Keoghan for Saltburn. I didn't even have him on my list last year. Banshees. I didn't really think the performance was anything worth here. I love what he does with the part. I love how manipulative he is. I love that his character changes so radically over the course of the film. He's the only Saltburn actor that I recognized. I didn't recognize Rosamund, and I didn't recognize Jacob Elordi. I recognize Jacob Elordi for Priscilla, but not for Saltburn. Yeah, it's very talented Mr. Ripley a little bit there, but it kind of goes off on its own thing. I was really impressed with Barry in this, and I think he gets to show more range here, and it's a good performance. I liked it. Anyway, moving up the list, number 6 is Nicolas Cage for Dream Scenario. I think he's had strong work. I think this is absolutely this was a film I lamented when I had it. I was like, A24 just kind of put too much on their plate at the end of the year. Like Zac Efron missed this list. The thing about Zac is that I always think that I've had him before. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought he was good in The Greatest Beer Run Ever. I've been seeing Zac trying to do more and more serious work for years now. So I think people who have not noticed that and haven't noticed the choices he's been making. He also has that Netflix film, Extremely Wicked and Shockingly Vile, or I can't think of the name of the title. Anyway, he's been making really strong acting choices for years. Everybody just kind of seemed to act like the Iron Claw was just like, oh my god, Zac Efron. And I was like, well, that's the Zac Efron I've been seeing for a couple of years, and he's swinging for it. He just fell a little bit short on my list. So anyway, but the other A24 film that they shoved out at the end of the year, Dream Scenario, Nicolas Cage, I loved how non-cagey the performance was, how it felt like he had to play this really sort of average dude, and all of the cageisms had to be dialed way back. And that's what Pigs sort of challenged him to do, is that he couldn't be loud and explosive and all that a lot of it was very quiet and internal. And I love what we're challenging Cage to do. So yeah, Dream Scenario deserves to be here. Number 5 is Andrew Scott for All of Us Strangers. I love this film. I think what Andrew Scott did was fantastic. The work that he put forth in this film is terrific. I look forward to seeing more from Andrew Scott in the future. But I do believe the right 5 people ended up getting the Oscar nomination. I know it seems weird because I'm on number 5, so stay with me. Number 4 on my list is Bradley Cooper for Maestro. It's a very interesting performance. It's a performance that feels like you want to give it an Oscar, but at the same time, while I think it's an incredible performance from Bradley, it's not the performance I want him to be recognized for. It's very weird. It's like he's had so many great performances already that I feel like Maestro is a catch-up for that if he wins. And for me on this, because it's not, I can't honestly say it's his best performance for me, I didn't put him at the top. I think there are people who are actually closer. I think this year some actors actually got really close or did actually deliver the best work of their career. Um, and that's what we're working our way towards right now. Number 3 on my list is Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer. Um, and again, it's I feel like he's closer to his career best, if not his career best here. But Cillian chooses a lot of really interesting work to begin with. So it's not like he's not somebody like Zac Efron who had to kind of switch gears and jump into it. Um, he's been doing like really serious work pretty much his whole career. He hasn't been doing a lot of fluffy pieces where he's had to like change his career around. Even Bradley Cooper's got, I mean, he's got like Failure to Launch and stuff like that out there. So, he's the Wedding Crashers and stuff, The Hangover. Killian just doesn't have that. So he's been performing really high at the top of his career. It's a quiet role. It's not a very showy role. It's a very good role. I've seen Oppenheimer twice, and he's still wound up here. So, in the number 3 spot, there's 3 names you haven't heard. Actually, there's a lot of names you haven't heard. Let's discuss the ones you haven't heard and why they're not here. Leonardo DiCaprio didn't make my list because it's just a strong list, and DiCaprio in the pantheon of performances, if I did a top 10 list of my favorite Leonardo DiCaprio performances, Killers wouldn't make it. I actually did that list. I actually made that list. I didn't make a video about it because I made that list after the fact to sort of like prove it to myself. I was like, what are my 10 favorite? And it would have just been, it wasn't tied to Killers, and it just, I don't know, it's like, I'd just be releasing a top 10 list of DiCaprio performances for no reason, way outside of he's not nominated this year. It's like, why are you doing this? I don't know. So at some other point, I'll release a video. But the problem with DiCaprio is he's becoming like De Niro and some of those others, where it's just, how do you even get people in there? His whether or not he can get in now is almost based on competition, because he's becoming hard to top himself. Like he's turned in so many amazing performances that he can't be himself. Um, so that's why Leo didn't make the list. Teo Yu didn't make the list because I'm blind. I'm just gonna be straight up honest. I know that's people are gonna be like, what? So here's the thing: I can't recognize the cast of Society of the Snow because their entire performances are dubbed. I recognize them in ensemble because I had a feeling that what they were putting down, but to individually recognize performances is really hard because I have to use audio description and I can't read subtitles, which means I do have to use voice talent that's dubbing the actors. Teo Yu's performances almost entirely in another language, aside from him attempting to say a couple things in English. So I can't get the full range of his performance. I get the voiceover performance. So it doesn't feel fair to put Teo Yu on this list because I'm not really grading Teo Yu's performance. Do I think he probably did a great job? Yeah, I do. But Greta didn't make my list either. Both of them fell short. It's also a competition thing. It's just a long list. I don't really think there's anybody else that anybody would question other than those two that aren't on this list. Maybe Joaquin Phoenix for either Beau is Afraid or Napoleon. Joaquin's got a DiCaprio problem also. Like the list of their performances is just, and then which performance do I pick? Because I liked him about equally in both of those films. Beau is Afraid and Napoleon. I thought he was good in both, but neither of them are near his best work. So when you perform at the top of your game all the time and you're creating these great roles, sometimes you miss out. So in second place for me is Colman Domingo for Rustin. I think this might be Colman Domingo's best performance, but I also saw it the same year that I saw Colman Domingo in The Color Purple. So he's also recognized as supporting actor. So when I was trying to figure out what to do with these actors, because I think this is the strongest best actor top 5 we've ever had. I fully agree with the best actor top 5. And I can't do anything with it. So the only reason why Colman shifted down a little bit was the fact that I he's also fantastic in The Color Purple. Maybe this is his best work of his career, um, but I don't know. He just fell just slightly short. It's very like a point. It's like 1 point below. And for my win, I rarely ever do this, but I had to tie it. It's Paul Giamatti and Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers and Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction are my winners. It's a tie. These are my two favorite performances of the year, and I think they're both giving their best work. I think these two feel like they were in films that were crafted specifically for them, in characters that were crafted specifically for them, and they hit on every cylinder possible. I think Paul is more likely to win the Oscar because he's been nominated before, but Jeffrey Wright is somebody who should have been nominated a long time ago. He's been giving out great work for years, and I feel like Court wrote American Fiction with Jeffrey Wright in mind. It's really hard to not think that. It's really hard to listen to that script and not think Jeffrey Wright would be amazing in this role. Jeffrey Wright was also briefly terrific in Rustin. He was in Rustin. He didn't make my top 10. It's a smaller role. He was also in Rustin, and he was really good in Rustin. But that did not make me change my opinion about this being his best work. And then Paul Giamatti in The Holdovers. I watch Billions, and I love him in Billions, and I think the work that he does in Billions is incredible. But to see him to be hard and soften himself by the end of The Holdovers, reminded me about everything we loved about his performance in Sideways, along with the abrasive personality that he's mastered so well along the way in films like The Ides of March and TV shows like Billions. He uses all of the skills that he's acquired over a very particular set of skills over a long period of time, to really deliver his career best performance in The Holdovers. These two men are at the top of their careers, and I wasn't going to pick. And I kind of had a feeling I wasn't going to pick a long time ago. And I think in one of my videos, actually back in TV, I mentioned that I tied. It was when I tied because I couldn't pick between the guys of The Last of Us, Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett, and I mentioned I was like, they have to tie. I said I feel like there might be another tie, because I was looking at this and I'd already seen these films, and I was like, I can't. I think it's their best performance. So I would love for either of them to win, but I also like the other three performances that are nominated. So whoever wins this year, I'm going to celebrate it, even if it's not Paul or Jeffrey, because wow, what a great year for film and for acting. And maybe I cheated. It's technically a top 11, but I got to keep some great performances on the list by doing it. And also Paul and Jeffrey tied at the top. Two of my favorite actors. Anyway, that's it. I hope you like this list, and I hope that surprised you somewhat. But I don't know. I feel like Cillian Murphy fans are like, why isn't it Cillian? And it's like, I don't know, man. It's a tough year, and I'm not sure that is Cillian's. But it's more of a compliment to the rest of his work. I don't know. It's very weird. I also feel like Oppenheimer could have been a film that somebody else could have played. Whereas I can't input somebody else into The Holdovers or American Fiction in my brain. My brain just won't let me do that. My brain will let me do that with the other films, but it won't let me do that with those two performances. I can't picture anyone else in those roles. Like Dustin Hoffman in The Holdovers. I'm like, well, that would have been a completely different film, and I don't know that I would have liked that film that much. It just radically changes the film anytime I do that. Whereas with Cillian Murphy, I'm like, I don't know, Leonardo DiCaprio as Oppenheimer probably would have been great, right? Leonardo DiCaprio in The Holdovers, no, right? I think we agree on that. Coleman Domingo in American Fiction might have been good. Doesn't feel like it's written for him, but if you do it, if you swap it in, then you're like, oh well, Uh, Rustin, Billy Porter and Rustin. How would that have been? I would have been really interested to see that. So I don't know. It's these lists are fun to make though, and just talking about the best of the best. Anyway, I've got 2 more lists to make, and then we have the Oscars. So I will see you guys on the other side.